Morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Happy New Year. Of course, I'm happy to welcome everyone back in 2026 for a new bar year for the State Bar of Texas. The time is now 10:01 a.m. and I'm calling this meeting to order. With our agenda posting, we invited members of the public to view a broadcast of the Executive Committee meeting, which is live at www.youtube/State Bar of Texas. We also provided instructions on how to sign up to speak at today's meeting. Sign-ups to speak remotely were available until 5 p.m. yesterday, and members of the public will speak under Agenda Item 3, and those members of the public joining remotely will remain in the Zoom waiting room until it's their turn to speak. Please note that this meeting will be recorded and the recordings will be made available to the public. Executive Director Trey Apfel, will you now call the roll?
Director Benish.
Here.
Director Browning. Director Toscano has an excused absence. Director Denbo.
Here.
Director Gomez is en route. Director Greenslade.
Here.
Director Harrison.
Here.
Director Hicks.
Here.
Director Huddleston has an excused absence. Director Castle. Senior Justice Learman has an excused absence. Director Martinez.
Here.
Director Salick.
Here.
Director Smith.
Here.
Director Stafford.
Here.
Director Vargas.
Here.
Director Voss has an excused absence. Director Rampelmeyer.
Here.
Justice Young is en route. He is present.
He's present.
Right on time.
Right on time.
Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Executive Director. At this time, we'd like to welcome any members of the public who have signed up to speak. Any member of the public joining us in person who wishes to speak should sign a blue sign-in card and return it to the staff. If there's a specific topic of discussion or agenda item you'd like to speak on, please list that on the card. If any members of the public have signed up to speak remotely, you'll remain in the Zoom waiting room until it's your turn to speak, and I'll address you to indicate when you may begin. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to speak, and we will notify you when your time is complete. And I believe we have at least one member of the public who is present with us today, who is here to speak, and that is Mr. Carlos Leon. Mr. Leon, floor is yours. You got 3
Thanks,
minutes.
President Vargas. Soy Carlos Leon. First and foremost, gracias a Dios for letting me continue critiquing your attorney discipline system to you. Yesterday, I received an email from Mr. Chris Ritter, your chief legal counsel, telling me, quote, under both law and rule, the State Bar cannot share the confidential grievance information you attached, even with our board/executive committee, end quote. He was referring to my new and improved grievance 202507711 against Victoria Hayslett, alleging she violated Rule 3.3A1, candor toward the tribunal, by knowingly making a false statement of material fact to a tribunal. I submitted it and CDC's response as written comments for you to receive before this meeting and be posted online. Though State Bar cannot give it to you, I can, because my public comments are First Amendment protected free speech. Thus, from the podium, I'm handing out my public comment materials to you now. President, please take one.
Mr. Leon, we don't allow members of the public to hand out directly to the members of this committee. If you'd like to hand it to Ms. Jennifer Reams, she will review that, and we'll do that at a later time. Thank you.
Thank you, President
I
Vargas.
just wanted to add that we welcome your comments, we welcome your materials. I haven't had a chance to review this handout, but there are some laws that protect confidentiality about certain personal information and grievance information. So I just ask that the members pause before reading this, and after I get a chance to make sure that we're in compliance with the law, I'll let you know.
My time was paused during that, right, President Vargas?
You
Thanks.
can proceed, sir.
Thank you. So what's being handed out to you now, of course, are my public comments. To give you a little heads up and also to help Mr. Ritter, on the front is my 2-page letter to you, executive committee members, summarizing the grievance and highlighting a serious materiality issue for 3.3A1. Because the tribunal did not consider Hazlett's false statement of fact, CDC allegedly considered it not material because Cone v. Commission for Lawyer Discipline says, quote, "We believe that in the context of Rule 3.3A1, materiality encompasses matters represented to a tribunal that the judge would attach importance to and would be induced to act on in making a ruling," end quote. However, Cone also says, quote, "We agree with the court's statement in Diaz that Rule 3.3A1 encompasses false statements by a lawyer that might corrupt the course of litigation," end quote. Leading to Willie saying nothing in 3.3A1 requires proof the tribunal considered or relied upon a false statement in adjudication, and that, quote, "withdrawal of a false statement of material fact does not extinguish the initial misconduct," end quote. Thus, help me convince CDC to consider my Cone-Diaz-Willie materiality argument to hold Hazlett accountable and stop other attorneys from similarly violating 3.3A1, because CDC has said in writing, which you have now in front of you, that they're not going to allow me to amend that grievance one time to make this materiality argument. If you have any questions, I'm willing to take them now because I know that's my 3 minutes of time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Leon. We appreciate you coming to speak with us today.
Likewise, President Vargas.
Okay, I believe we've now heard from each member of the public who signed up to speak, and the public comment period is now closed. During the remainder of the meeting, if there are board members or staff that are present and who wish to speak, please approach the podium, and I'll let you know when it's your turn to speak. And now we're going to hear from our Executive Director, Mr. Trey Appel.
Thank you, President Vargas. Good morning, committee members, and Happy New Year to you. Want to give you some updates on the happenings at the State Bar, beginning first with our 2026 State Bar Annual Meeting that will be coming up in June 11th and 12th in Houston, and that will be housed at the Marriott Marquis. There, we're honored to have former Justice Eva Guzman and Warren Harris serving as co-chairs of this year's annual meeting committee. The committee is tasked with the fundraising effort for the meeting and also advising the State Bar on keynote speakers for the programming. If you're interested in a sponsorship, there's a handout in your materials and in Board Effect that lists the different law firm and corporate sponsorship levels. Each year, the December issue of our Texas Bar Journal, we take that opportunity to publish the By the Numbers report. This report reflects results from results and outcomes of our State Bar core services from the prior bar year. So this is done in compliance with the State Bar Act. The December 2025 issue features the report for the bar year 2024-2025. I encourage you to read the report, which provides a very impressive overview of State Bar operations. The report measures everything from social media metrics to the number of grievances filed and resolved. I want to mention a few of the highlights. First, under serving the public, the State Bar's lawyer referral and information service made over 108,000 referrals, resulting in more than 104,000 people finding an attorney for a legal need. Our law-related education department reached more than 2,400 teachers through 105 training sessions. And our State Bar leadership received routinely thank you notes from those teachers where our law-related education effort goes out throughout the state. And they tell us what an incredible impact our programming has on their ability to reach their students. Speaking of reaching students, those teachers reached over 160,000 students with that programming that our law-related education department made available for them. Next, our Client Attorney Assistance Program, CAP. This is our confidential statewide dispute resolution service. We received over 26,000 calls and over 7,500 emails or letters relative to disputes or problems that they've had with their attorney. Requests for assistance were closed with a success rate of over 84%. These are resolutions that are made that we are able to keep from having to go through our grievance system. Not that we don't want them to go through our grievance system, but this gives it's another avenue where it's an alternative dispute resolution avenue, and it's working very well. Also, in connection with our Client Security Fund, more than $650,000 was approved for applicants this past year, and that provides grants to clients whose lawyers have stolen money from them or failed to refund an unearned fee. All right, under serving our members or our membership, we had more than 16,000 unique visitors made nearly 20,000 visits to our law practice management website. Our succession planning portal received over 7,000 visits. Our member benefits program offered 48 benefits to Texas lawyers, and that webpage received more than 127,000 page views. Our Texas Lawyers Assistance Program handled 875 consultations related to mental health, substance use, or cognitive issues affecting Texas lawyers, judges, and law students. Texas Bar CLE provided nearly 400 scholarships for members to attend its courses. In addition, Texas Bar CLE's free online classes had more than 34,000 registrants. So as you can see, it's an impressive array of metrics from State Bar operations. The complete by the numbers report is available to read in the December TBJ or online at texasbar.com/performance measures numbers. And that completes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Executive Director Appel. Do we have any comments or questions from any members of the committee? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move on to the report from the president. And before I provide my general report, I do want to take a moment to honor and recognize one of our recently departed brethren, Mr. Roger Key, who wasn't just a former director, but was also a former chair of the board of directors, which is an experience that Roger and I were able to bond over. Roger wasn't just an excellent lawyer, excellent member of this board, an excellent chair. He was a lion of the profession, a cherished member of both the Lubbock legal, business, and civic communities, and also a devoted family man. Roger will be missed, and our hearts go out to Roger, his family, and his wife, Ann. Let's all now just take a moment of silence to honor our departed brother, Roger Key. Moving on, just to give you a little bit of an update on what I've been up to over the course of the last several months. I have been a busy man over the course of the early fall and late fall. And I'll just give you a few of the highlights on things that I've been doing and working on and different appearances that I've made. I've been all over the state. I have spoken in Abilene, Amarillo, Austin County, Collin County, Hidalgo County, Smith County, Brazos County, El Paso, Kendall County, and the Hispanic Bar Association of Houston, just to name a few. I've also spoken at bar associations across the state at various CLEs, as well as different events that are put on by different legal associations, including at the Advanced Civil Trial CLE, the Dallas Hispanic Bar Annual Gala, the Tyler Area Association of Legal Professionals Luncheon, the MABA Houston Gala, the J.L. Turner Gala, the new lawyer induction ceremony, the Council of Chairs, the National College of Probate Judges meeting in Galveston, as well as the TYLA board meeting. And I've also represented the State Bar at multiple other events, including the Southern Conference of Bar Presidents, the Austin Hispanic Bar Annual Luncheon. Thank you for that invitation, Steve. The Austin Bar Reception honoring Terry Tottenham, and the Houston Bar Harvest Celebration. And just like the old Johnny Cash song goes, I have been everywhere, man. Spring is shaping up to be just as busy as the fall was. And I'm proud to represent Texas lawyers and this board as I travel across the state. It truly has been and will continue to be the honor of my life. And so thank you all for allowing me to represent this board and our profession across the state for this year. It has been truly amazing, and I will never forget this. I do want to tell you a little bit about what we're going to focus on at our next board meeting. We're going to have a solo small firm CLE on January 29th, and it's going to be on updates for solo practitioners and small firms. It'll take place from 2 o'clock to 4:30 p.m. on Thursday, January 29th at our Fort Worth meeting. Topics include a state bar update, updates on family law, litigation and employment law, and a Supreme Court of Texas update. I also want to thank Senior Justice Deborah Lehrman, along with State Bar Directors Chris Nicholson and Deanna Gomez, who will be joining me as speakers at this event. For those of you who are going to be at the Fort Worth meeting, please make sure to go to that CLE. It's always very well attended, but it's also important that not just the speakers, but also all of the members of this board show up and interact with the lawyers from the community that we're holding our board meetings in, and show that we really do care about all the lawyers that we visit across the state. So if you get a chance, if you have the opportunity, please show up to that solo small firm CLE, take part and mingle and get to know the lawyers in the local community that we're visiting. In June, I challenged directors that were on this board to present the State Bar update and CLEs to constituents in their districts. Now, what I noted at the time was that really this challenge was going out to elected district directors because they represent constituents in specific geographic areas. And we've had several directors who have done that, who've taken heed of the call and signed up to speak and spoken at this point at several different bar associations in their districts. And the challenge continues. And so we're going to have another presentation of the Wall of Honor at the next board meeting in Fort Worth. I'd like to get a quick show of hands of those members of this committee who have signed up to speak at CLEs in their districts. Can I get a quick show of hands? We have quite a few, okay? Here's the good news. For those of you who haven't yet signed up, there is still time. So what I'm asking you to do is to report to Jennifer Reams and myself that you have at least a speaking engagement scheduled prior to the next board meeting so that your name can go up on the Wall of Honor along with the other directors, district directors, elected district directors who have already signed up to speak and have spoken. And so the challenge, of course, goes out to the elected district directors, but we also welcome the other directors or the other members of the board to sign up to speak as well. The more participation, the better. In my view, part of our job as board members and members of this esteemed body is not just being in here speaking to each other, but it's being out there in the community speaking to lawyers across the state. So let's do that. We are ambassadors for the profession, and we are ambassadors for the State Bar of Texas. And I look forward to seeing every single one of you on the Wall of Honor on January 29th. Also want to give you a quick update on the Stand with Santos Access to Justice campaign. As you know, since my induction on my swearing in on January 20th, I have been out speaking to lawyers across the state, pounding the drum on access to justice. Have gotten a great reception everywhere that I have gone. And I will continue doing that over the course of my presidency until the very last day that I'm president of this body. And so just a quick update on what we've done so far. We have managed to raise over $112,000 in funds so far, as well as an additional 1,258 pro bono hours, which is just incredible. Now, the goal when I started this journey on June 20th was to raise a value of $300,000. We have now raised a total value of $494,000, both in funds as well as hours that have been donated by lawyers across the state. And it's more than that. It's the fact that lawyers across the state are now coming up to me and saying, thank you for bringing attention to this extremely important topic. So it's the funds, it's the hours, absolutely, but it's also the awareness. And the need couldn't be any greater than it is right now. So for those of you who have audience, who have lawyers that they can speak to about this topic, please do. If there are opportunities for me to go out and speak to different groups that you're a part of, your local bar associations, please have them get in contact with me. The more that we can do, the more awareness that we can raise, the more funds and the more hours that we can raise, the better off that all of us will be, not just as members of this profession, but also as Texas citizens. So thank you all for your support. And if people are interested in learning more, you can go to standwithsaunders.org. And that concludes my report. Are there any questions or comments from any of the directors and members of this committee? We also have one, thank you all very much. We also have one action item. We need a motion and a second to approve the September 4th, 2025 minutes. Any director who wishes to make a motion, please state your name. Anybody? Don't everybody raise your hand all at once. Okay, Noel, okay. Noel has made a motion to approve the September 4th, 2025 minutes. Do we have a second? Director Castle has seconded. All director, is there any discussion first of all? None? Okay. All directors who are in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. With that, the motion is adopted and the September 4th, 2025 minutes are approved. And with that, we're going to have next up a report from our Madam Chair, Brittany Harrison. Madam Chair, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
All right, so just a quick report. The deadline for second-year directors to submit their letters of intent to run for the next year's chair of the board has passed, and we received 3 letters of intent. We had one from Steve Shishkano of San Antonio, one from Deanna Gomez of Houston, and one from Amy Rod of El Campo. So the candidates will be announced at the January board meeting, and we'll have the opportunity to make some comments at that meeting. Also at the meeting, the board will consider and approve the method of voting to be used for the chair election in April. So show of hands versus written ballot. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Any questions or comments for our chair? Okay. All right, so now we're going to hear from our president-elect, David Smith. Director Smith, you have the floor.
Thank you, President Vargas.
Hi, everybody. Good morning.
Morning.
All right. Since we last met, I've made another trip around the sun. My last year was marked with a lot of highlights. Most importantly was the fact that my age was the word of the year, 6'7". So it's going to be hard to top that, but we're going to do it this year. I got to tell y'all, I love this job. I love the people I've worked with. I love what I get to do. I love being able to support President Vargas. All those things have just made my life so enriched and so fulfilled. And why I say this is to each of you, value this experience, value what you're doing, and do what President Vargas just said. Get out and share the message, get the word out and let people know. Over the past few months, I've been a little busy. I haven't traveled as much as President Vargas, but I've been going around from Midland to Waxahachie to places in Dallas, attending various functions and promoting the Stand with Vargas, Stand with Santos campaign and encouraging people to get involved, to either donate your funds, donate your time, but become involved in access to justice and helping people in need get the legal services they desire. It has been a very fulfilling effort that he has initiated, and I urge you all, do what he said, get out there and promote it and get more people involved. Looking forward, we've got this upcoming year. On February the 15th of 1876, I'm about the only one old enough in this room to have been present at that time, the Texas Constitution was adopted. And we are now celebrating its sesquicentennial. And Justice Young is moving forward on that effort to provide knowledge, to promote more interest in the Texas Constitution and celebrate the sesquicentennial. And I urge you all to work with him and work with us to create some ideas about how we can move this forward and make it a monumental event, the monumental event it should be. Now, recently we had the Budget Committee meeting. And the Budget Committee met on December the 16th, and we were there to review the proposed budget for the fiscal year 26-27. Which takes effect June 1st and continues through May 31st of May 31st of 2027. After hearing from all of the representatives from the state bar divisions and departments, and after committee discussion, the committee approved the budget for the fiscal year 26-27 as presented. A 5-page copy of the proposed budget is in your materials. That's available under board effect, and I hope that you have looked it over and had an opportunity to review it. If the budget is approved by this committee, the executive committee today, and the board of directors at the January meeting, this proposed budget as presented in your packet will be published in the March 2026 issue of the Texas Bar Journal. You should have a copy of that proposed budget in your materials. Some of the highlights of the proposed general fund budget are as follows. The budget was drafted using a zero-based budget approach. This means the budget was built from absolutely zero. It required that all budgets, there's 57 individual department budgets, had to be broken down into smaller categories and reviewed and approved by management. Now, folks, this was a monumental undertaking, and these people did a stellar job of taking apart their budgets, looking at it, give them opportunity to reflect and review and really focus on what their departments were doing, where they needed to go, and what they needed in terms of funds to do it. And my hat's off to each and every one of the people who presented at the Budget Committee hearing, because they did a lot of work. As a result, the State Bar's proposed budget for fiscal year 2026-27 is balanced, meaning that the total operating revenues equal total operating expenses. The proposed budget revenues increased by $859,310, or 1.7%, compared with the current year's budget. The increase is in dues, fees, and investment revenues categories. The expenditures are budgeted to increase by $869,829, or 1.7%, bringing the total operating expenditures for the general fund to $51.1 million. With regard to designation of the funds that were available as part of the budget process, the Budget Committee reviews the amount of funds held in our reserves and recommends the best use for the State Bar's undesignated funds balances to the Board of Directors. As a reminder, reserves are a portion of the fund balance held for future expenses or operating deficits. It can be considered like a savings account. It is just good, prudent business practice to run this bar as the business that it is and make sure that we have available funds in the event of a shortfall or a need. The reserves ensure financial stability, which is important for a self-funded and self-governed entity such as our state bar. Your packet includes a summary of the recommended designations. it's in a document entitled Designation of Funds Balance. The total available funds for designation in the proposed budget are $2,495,533.
Sorry.
This amount equals the general fund's net excess as presented in the 2024-2025 audited financial report. After hearing from the executive director and the state bar staff, the budget committee recommends that the board designate the $2,495,000 or $533 of available funds in the following manner. First, designate $200,000 to minimal reserves. That brings the total minimal reserves balance to $13,680,619. That equals about 3.2 months of operating expenses. And as I said before, in running any business, you need to have forecasts, you need to have reserves, you need to have that fund available in the event of any type of contingency or emergency. The next thing we recommend is to commit $391,017 for the legal expense reserves, bringing the total amount held in reserve to $1 million. What this deals with is basically covering the uncovered portion of legal expenses that we may incur for outside counsel or to meet deductible requirements under our insurance coverage for any legal expenses that we may incur during the year or during a successive period of years. The next thing we recommend is committing $1.5 million for the building funds. These funds are needed for pre-construction and fundraising costs to develop the 1415 Lavaca building into an education and conference center. Now, these funds are not to be used for the construction itself. This is all the work that goes into the planning and implementation of the process to start the construction. The construction is not going to be paid for out of bar dues. If you were asked that question about how we're paying for this construction, it is going to be done by donations. It is not going to be done out of bar dues. But this $1.5 million goes towards those pre-construction activities that have to be done in order for us to be able to get to the point of starting construction. We also are recommending committing $350,000 to the annual meeting fund. This commitment will cover the annual meeting cost and reestablish an operating fund for necessary activities. This is an ongoing expense and is incurred every year, and we're just simply replenishing the fund that is there. There are other smaller commitments that were discussed, and those are included in your materials. The Budget Committee unanimously approved the proposed budget for fiscal year 26-27. The reserves and fund balances were reviewed in accordance with board policy. Unless you have any questions, I would like to go ahead and proceed with the motion, if that is all right, President Barger. Okay. On behalf of the Budget Committee, I move that the State Bar's proposed fiscal year 26-27 budget be approved for presentation to the board and for publication in the March 2026 issue of the Texas Bar Journal.
Before we proceed with the vote, is there any comments or questions from directors? Any comments or questions? I think that's your, that's your, you're going to make the motion, David.
Yeah. On behalf of the Budget Committee, I move that the State Bar proposed fiscal year 26-27 budget be approved for presentation to the board and for publication in the March 2026 issue of the Texas Bar Journal. I so move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay. And that concludes my report. Thank y'all very much.
Okay. And with that, thank you very much, President-elect Smith. We're going to hear from our immediate past president, immediate past President Benish.
Yes, those sweet 3 words, immediate past president. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Let me try one more time. I don't think I heard the back part of the table. Good morning.
Good morning.
There you go. It is my pleasure to be with you this morning. As my time winds down on the board, I'm not nearly so busy as President Vargas nor President-elect Smith, but I still got around a bit. since our last board meeting. I'm not going to bother to run through a list of any of the events I went to. Instead, I would like to highlight the organizations and entities that sponsored the activities or events that I went to. And I did that because I want certainly the members of the committee here this morning to understand, but also more importantly, members of the public and members of our legal profession to understand that the executive team of the State Bar of Texas represents the State Bar at a wide array of activities and events that are sponsored by a number of state, local, and national law-related organizations. And it is extraordinary work and time-consuming work that's performed by every member of the executive committee, but we do it on behalf of the over 118,000 members of our legal profession here in Texas and members of the public here in Texas as well. Since the last board meeting, I attended events that were sponsored by the State Bar of Texas, the Austin Bar Association, the Houston Bar Association, the Texas Lawyers Auxiliary, the Travis County Women Lawyers Association, the Hispanic Bar Association of Austin, the Houston Young Lawyers Association, the Texas Board of Law Examiners, the Federal Bar Association Southern District Chapter, the Texas Association of Civil Trial and Appellate Specialists, the Center for American and International Law, the Southern Conference of Bar Presidents, and the University of Texas School of Law. I was heartened to see many of you at one or more of these events, and thank you for the time that you devoted to attending those events. The most important work we do as board members is the work that we do between our board meetings, serving our constituencies. Even more pleased to see President Vargas, President-elect Smith, and Chair Harrison at a number of these events. They were the cast of usual suspects seeing them at these events, and their devoted service to the bar and to our profession is very much appreciated. I've got 5 months to go before I take this pin off and step off the State Bar board. And I've pretty much wrapped up and put to bed on the pocket full of presidential initiatives that I began with. There is one remaining trailing presidential initiative that I'm still bird dogging with 5 months left, and that is the redesign of the State Bar's website. The State Bar staff continues to work diligently on the redesign of texasbar.com. We are working to make the website as user-friendly as possible to give the site a fresh look and a fresh feel, and to organize content so that it's easy to find and easy to access by all users, whether they have law licenses or not. And I am pleased to report that the design phase will be completed this month in January. The staff will soon thereafter proceed to the development phase and begin migrating content into this new site. And we hope to launch the new website in the second quarter of 2026 and to have that done by our annual meeting in June when I step off this board. It has been my pleasure and continues to be my pleasure to serve our profession. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Past President Benish. Any questions or comments from directors? Okay, seeing none. Next up, we're going to hear from our immediate past chair, Mr. Paul Stafford. Paul, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I speak on behalf of the Nominations and Elections Subcommittee with my co-chair, Steve Bennett. As you know, the Nominations and Elections Subcommittee began the nomination search process in September of 2025 to identify attorneys who might be interested in interviewing to be president-elect candidates. As a reminder, this is an open year for candidates. And so that means the potential candidates may come from any county of the state. The subcommittee met in October to discuss potential candidates and other matters pertaining to the candidacy and election process. The State Bar published a call for nominations in the Texas Bar Journal and through our online platforms. And we sent notices to all committees, sections, and local bars about the opportunity. During that time, we also spoke with a number of people to gauge their interest in being considered for an interview to be president-elect. We ended up with a list of 4 attorneys who had agreed to be considered and participate in interviews with the committee. On November 20th, we conducted interviews here at the Texas Law Center. It was once again a strong group of potential nominees, each of whom would do a wonderful job as president-elect. We are fortunate to have that type of interest from lawyers who are willing to serve and are so well qualified for the position. After much deliberation, the subcommittee voted to elect or select Sarah Clower Keithley of Corsicana and Ray Thomas of McAllen. Their bios and their interest letters are included in the executive committee packet under the nominations committee section. We're pleased to have these two very dynamic individuals to recommend to the board of directors as candidates for president-elect of the state bar. They both bring a tremendous amount of experience and service to lawyers and to the Bar Association. We know they will run great campaigns this year, and we've been checking on them to make sure that they've been behaving. Mr. President, may I move or make a motion?
Go ahead.
On behalf of the Nominations and Elections Subcommittee, I move that the Executive Committee approve the recommendation of Sarah Clower Keithley of Corsicana and Ray Thomas of McAllen as the nominees for 2026-2027 State Bar of Texas President-elect candidates and candidacies.
Is there any discussion from directors? Any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, all directors who are in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, seeing none, the motion passes and is adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. To reduce the cost, the plan is to move forward with electronic voting only for the 2026 election of the next State Bar President-elect. The State Bar will send emails and mail a postcard to all members that will include a reminder about voting. The emails and postcard will include a link that takes them directly to our elections page that includes information about the State Bar and the TYLA President-elect candidates and director positions. Speaking of directors, finally, I want to remind our elected directors who have a term ending in June of 2026 to please contact constituents and/or colleagues who may be willing or interested and able to serve and find out if they would be interested in running for the position. The district chart can be found at texasbar.com/elections. And thus endeth my report, unless there are any questions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Sheriff Trafford. Next up, we're going to hear from Cade Browning, who is the chair of the admin committee. Cade, you have the floor.
Thanks, sir. Morning.
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 All right, I'm giving the report on the administration committee as written out here by Mr. Ritter. So the administration committee is going to meet next week, next Tuesday, to consider and make some recommendations to the board at our meeting regarding some proposed rule changes from the Court Rules Committee. And I'm going to go through a little bit of these with you. A couple rules of civil procedure, 76A. And then as of just, y'all probably saw last week, I think maybe, or right at the end of the year, the court has proposed some new rules regarding the new summary judgment rules, as y'all may recall, / legislative session. There was a bill passed to govern how summary judgments are done. And then that bill was then amended, I think, in the second special session. So the Supreme Court Advisory Committee has been working on those rules, and the court has just issued, if y'all hadn't seen, take a look at a new proposed rule on Rule 166, and I think the comments on that are going to be due towards the end of February. So I think we'll take that up too, if that's all right. Then we're also going to talk about the Texas Rules of Appellate Procedure 34.6, 42.1, and 49.5. And then the recommendations can be considered by this board at our board meeting January 30th. There's no action required on these today, but we thought we would go ahead and share the nature of the proposals for y'all information. So I just talked about Rule 166, which will dictate how the timing is done on summary judgment responses, not by the date of the hearing, but by the date of the filing, and some other rework of that rule. So that's an interesting proposal. 76A is proposed to be amended in a way that just rewrites the third paragraph to clarify the requirements of public notice when somebody's going to try to seal the court records. So when reorganized for clarity, the substance of the notice requirements largely remain unchanged, but the rule will confirm that the movement is responsible for posting public notice that they're going to seal
And that has to be placed where the county governmental meeting notices are posted, so in your courthouse or wherever. After posting, the movement will be required to immediately file a verified copy of the notice with the trial court clerk and provide a verified copy to the clerk of the Supreme Court. So the comments, the proposed comments to the new rule will address some misunderstandings, and comment 1 will clarify that anyone can post the notice, but the obligation still rests with the movement. And the poster needs to not be a disinterested party. And so that will avoid unnecessary costs such as hiring a process server. And comment 2 will emphasize that the public notice is mandatory and can't be waived even by agreement or even court order, as it exists to protect public access to judicial proceedings. All right, on to the appellate rules. 34.6 will clarify what constitutes a reporter's record. The current rule requires electronic recordings to be filed when they were electronically recorded, even though appellate courts can't use those recordings and instead look at the written transcripts. So the amendment's going to remove the reference to stenographic versus electronic recordings and simplify the rule to provide that the reporter's record consists only of the court reporter's transcription of the proceedings and exhibits. 42.1, Rule of Appellate Procedures, proposed to be amended for a couple purposes. Clarifying that an agreed motion does not require filing a separate written settlement agreement and eliminating the confusion about what appellate remedies require agreement of the parties. It will also distinguish motions filed by the appellant alone from agreed motions filed by both parties. Finally, Rule of Appellate Procedure 49.5 is proposed to be amended to ensure that parties seeking en banc reconsideration directly address the governing legal standard covering that particular case. The suggested revision requires the first page of the motion and an appropriate heading, address, and standard is set out in the rules, and the filing deadlines remain unchanged. So nonetheless, we're going to consider all these things next Tuesday at our meeting, and we'll report further back to y'all at the board meeting January 30th. That ends that report.
Thank you, Director Browning. Any questions or comments? Okay. So with that, Director Forrest Huddleston has an excused absence, and so Executive Director Trey Appel will provide the Audit and Finance Committee report.
Thank you, President Vargas. First, an update on the financial reports and financial statements. As of October 31, 2025, our general fund had a net positive budget variance of a little over $1 million, $1,108,418. This excess was spread evenly among revenues and expenses, meaning that actual revenues exceeded budgeted expectations by about $500,000, and expenditures came in under budgeted expenditures by about $500,000. The State Bar is doing better than expected 5 months into the fiscal year. We're always happy to see that. November's financial statements will be presented to the Audit and Finance Committee next week before the Board of Directors meeting. An update on internal audits for fiscal year 2026. As a reminder, internal auditors provide independent and objective assurance and consulting services to the bar and to an organization's governing body generally. This is designed to add value and improve our operations. The internal auditors review the State Bar's significant processes that we have in place and compliance areas to ensure that controls are in place and therefore objectives are being met. As part of our 5-year internal audit plan, the audits scheduled for fiscal year 2026 include an audit of our Public Funds Investment Act compliance, an audit of our Texas Bar books, and the Legal Access Department. Field work is currently underway. The auditors will present the final audit reports to the Audit and Finance Committee and the Board of Directors in April. Next up, our financial audit for fiscal year ending May 31, 2025. The CPA firm Weaver has completed the 24-25 financial audit of our comprehensive financial statements. A copy of the audit report is included in your EC packet. The financial audit resulted in the bar receiving an unmodified or clean opinion. This is the best that we can receive for this task. The ending audited fund balance for the general fund as of May 31, 2025 was $29,098,830, or an increase of $433,801 from the prior year. The audited statements did not result in changes to financial statements and the financial position previously presented to the board. Also included in our EC packet is a letter from Weaver to the State Bar's Board of Directors. Auditing standards require this communication, this letter, this report, which summarizes the required communications about the audit process and results to those charged with governance. So the report states that Weaver did not encounter any difficulties working with us during the audit, and they did not have any disagreements with our management. That means we play well together. That means we're transparent. That means we're meeting the objectives of our organization. The auditors also noted that there were no internal control deficiencies within the audit report. I know this is going to make Forrest happy because it makes me happy. The auditors and CFO will present these financial statements and audit reports to the Audit and Finance Committee on January 14th. The committee will review these reports and determine whether it will recommend that the board accept the financial audit report at its January meeting. And with that, Mr. President, that completes the Audit and Finance Committee report.
Thank you, Executive Director Apple. Do we have any comments or questions from directors? President-elect Smith.
Just having gone through the budget process and what the audit committee is doing and all of the things that you see that have transpired, the one thing that stands out time and time again is that this is a well-oiled machine. A well-oiled machine doesn't get there by itself. It gets there through some really tremendous leadership. So I'd like to commend Trey, staff, executive committee team. They have done a phenomenal job of running this ship, and I think we owe them a round of gratitude.
Thank you, Craig. All right, next up, Noel Hicks. Oh, sorry, one more question.
Yeah, so at the top of page, this is Chris Rathmeyer. The top of page 2 of that report, there were significant risks identified. What can we do to address those risks? Is that something that's going to be addressed by the committee, or is it these risks inherent in our system?
Tracy, can you come up and give a response to that? This is Tracy Jarrett, our Chief Financial Officer.
Yes, thank you for the question, Tracy Jarrett, CFO. The risks identified in the letter to the board of directors from our auditors identify inherent risks to the organization based off of the type of financial transactions that we have. So in order to address those risks, we have controls in place, but the auditors disclose those significant risks to the governing board.
So those risks will always be with us.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. With that, next up, we're going to have Noel Hicks, Director Hicks, who is the ad hoc committee to select at-large directors or representatives. So, Director Hicks, you have the floor.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So there are 4 at-large director positions on the State Bar Board. At the annual meeting in June, there will be 1 open position, and there's a process in the board policy to fill the positions. I'm going to be rolling off the board in June. I'll miss you guys.
No.
But it has been my absolute pleasure to serve as a board member, and it's going to be very exciting for me to serve as chair of this committee as well. December 1st was the deadline to submit nominations to the State Bar. This year, there were 6 nominations received for consideration. The ad hoc committee is meeting on January 13th to review the nomination packets. The committee will conduct these interviews in February at the Law Center and will recommend 2 nominees to President Santos Vargas for consideration. Of the 2, President Vargas will choose 2 nominees, and then he will submit those appointments to the board for consideration at the April board meeting. Our committee is looking forward to taking on this important task this year. The other members of the committee are Steve Chiscano, John Greenslade, Karen Locke, and Armin Salek. This concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Director Hicks. Any questions for Director Hicks? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move on. Director Brandy Wingate Boss has an excused absence. Executive Director Trey Atteville will provide the section representatives to the board report.
Thank you, President Vargas. First off, our Council of Chairs will meet at the Texas Law Center here in Austin on Friday, February 20th. The chairs will give reports and updates on each of their respective sections. We have 2 new section representatives to the board that will be elected at that meeting. One from a large section, one from a medium section. If the sections that you are a liaison to have questions about the nominations process or want to nominate one of their members, have them reach out to Lindsay Jackson in the sections department. The Civil Liberties and Civil Rights section has proposed changing their name to the Constitutional Law section. This proposal has been working its way through the process and will be submitted for approval at the January board meeting. The Collaborative Law section has submitted updated bylaws for board approval at the upcoming board meeting. And the Labor and Employment Law section has submitted updated bylaws and a dues increase from $30 to $40 for board approval at the upcoming board meeting. And that completes the report.
Thank you, Executive Director Atteville. Next, we have our report from the Texas Supreme Court. We're fortunate to have Justice Evan Young here with us today, provide that report. Justice Young, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good to be with you as always. Have you ever wondered why it is that we have Supreme Court justices coming to all these meetings and coming up and talking to you all, or does it just seem like that's a natural thing to do? Well, the reason is, of course, that under the Constitution and under Chapter 81 of the Government Code, the relationship between the state bar and the Supreme Court is one of great importance. And us being here, us talking with you, spending time hearing what you're doing, trying to give you some sense of what we're up to as a way of reflecting that relationship between the court and the state bar. And so we're very pleased to do that. I know Justice Lehrman is always happy to be here. She unfortunately has an intractable conflict. And so you're stuck with me again today, but hopefully you'll have better luck next time. I appreciate the reference that President-elect Smith made to this sesquicentennial year. In just about a month, we will celebrate the 150th anniversary of the Texas Constitution. And if you were to ask the people of Texas, do we have a Texas Constitution? I fear to know what the results of that poll would be. Perhaps even from the relatively small percentage of Texans that actually show up and vote every other year on Texas constitutional amendments. And so it seems to me that as you all try to climb higher and higher on the wall of honor in going across the state and talking to members of the bar and perhaps the public of our state, as representatives of this profession, which has unique authority among any profession to exercise governmental power on behalf of the people, perhaps you could spare at least a few sentences this year, at any time this year. I claim all of 2026 as the sesquicentennial year, not just February of 2026, to talk to people about why it's so important that a self-governing people understand what their Constitution is and what their role in promulgating amendments to it and maintaining it is. That is an essential attribute of our system of government. And those who came before us in 1876 set up a constitutional system that requires relatively frequent amendments. We're number 2 in the United States. And this is not a record we want to be number 1 in terms of length of our Constitution. Alabama has the longest Constitution in the world. India is second. This is of the English language, which is one of their official languages, translation of their constitution. And when you have very long constitutions, it means that the Constitution is doing the work that ordinarily you'd expect statutes to do. And that was by design. The people that promulgated our Constitution in 1876 wanted to reserve substantial authority for the people to authorize new kinds of activities from the government of our state. And that means that self-government in Texas requires an educated and informed population that's willing to show up and vote, to be aware of what these amendments are, to take play a part in the public deliberation about something that's as serious as changing our fundamental constitutional law. And so the bar of Texas can and should play a significant role in reacquainting the bar of Texas and the people of Texas with what our Constitution is, why it is the way it is, and how we can make it perhaps even better through careful custodianship by the sovereign people of our state. Now, that also relates to the other aspect, perhaps, of the wall of honor, going out and talking to the bar, and that is that we have a bar that assists the Supreme Court in administering the judicial branch, in particular, the practice of law, the profession, but it's a self-governing organization. It's supposed to be. Who would like to guess whether or not the percentage, and I just told you it's kind of low, of Texans that actually show up to vote for constitutional amendments is greater or less than the percentage of active members of the Texas bar that participated in the last election for president-elect or participated in perhaps the most analogous to constitutional amendments, which is the amendments to the disciplinary rules. What do you think? Is our profession doing better than the average Texan at showing up and voting, or not quite as good as the average Texan at showing up to vote? Any guesses? Isn't it sad that everyone is right? It's about 16% in the last constitutional amendment election. And it looks to me that if there are about 116,000 active members of the bar, and I guess we had about 17,000 voting in the disciplinary rules and something about 16,000 in the last presidential election, something along those lines. We're not doing quite as well. So one of the things that we can talk about when we're talking to members of our profession, just like we're talking to members of the people, they're both supposed to be self-governing polities. The state of Texas is supposed to be run by the people of Texas, not by the politicians or the judges of Texas. And the bar of Texas should be run by the lawyers of Texas. And neither of those things can happen if we do not have the relevant voters, the stakeholders in each polity actually aware of what's going on and showing up and voting. So that's my little 2 cents for you. Now, a few words of update from what we're doing. First, there's been some change on the court. Justice Boyd retired. I guess you all met, and I think we mentioned that at one of these meetings. Since then, since I think our last time that we gathered in this room, the governor has given us our full complement on the bench, and Justice Kyle Hawkins has taken the junior seat right in front of the Texas flag, the seat that I sat in for more than 3 years. And we've had a bunch of changes since January of this past year. In fact, I think today marks the 1-year anniversary of Chief Justice Blacklock and Justice Sullivan taking their oaths. Justice Hawkins took his oath at the very end of October, and he has already proven himself to be a very responsible and collegial colleague and a good servant of the people of Texas. And I hope that if you all haven't gotten to know him, that you will, and you'll have an opportunity on May 7th, because that's when we'll have the investiture of Justice Sullivan and the investiture of Justice Hawkins, and what we call a swearing out, which is a celebration of the justices who have left the bench, Chief Justice Heck, Justice Boyd, on May 7th in the Capitol. And I think that the state bar traditionally plays an important role in hosting maybe a reception afterwards. But this is a chance, again, for the state bar and its leadership to continue the sort of relationship that we have described earlier today. Second, we've made some new rules changes. First, we have changed with rules that took effect on January 1st, the way that we administer the petitions for review in the Supreme Court. And I think I've talked with you all about this before when this was proposed and put forth. But as of just a week ago, I guess, Texas stopped being the only state with a high court with discretionary review in which we would ask for full briefs on the merits before we would tell the parties whether we're going to take their case on the merits. And we now have adopted a procedure that is more akin, it's more similar to that of the U.S. Supreme Court and of every other state Supreme Court that has discretionary review. And so we've lengthened the petitions, the petition stage filings. And the general rule now is you will find out based upon the briefing at the petition stage whether or not you're coming to Austin to argue the case. And so we will then say petition is granted, you're coming, you then write the merits briefs, and then you come and argue it. That we hope will save a lot of resources and time for parties. You're not going to be spinning wheels, doing real long briefs that will end up with a one-line denial, which happens all too often. And it also means that when you're writing the merits briefs, you're going to know this counts. And it's not going to be, well, who knows, client, maybe they'll take it, maybe they won't. If they do take it, it'll be a year and a half from now. We hope that this will condense the amount of time that cases are on the docket, which will bring greater certainty and finality to parties who deserve it, because the mandate the Court of Appeals can't issue until the Supreme Court is done with its consideration of the case. Secondly, as Cade mentioned, we have proposed amendments to Rule 166A, which deals with summary judgments, in part because there were two statutes that required this. And in addition, the Supreme Court Advisory Committee thought this would be a very good time for the court to consider trying to clarify some of the great confusion that had grown up in the administration of Rule 166A. So please do take a look at that. It's a very important, hopefully an interesting, hopefully be pleased. If you haven't yet read the proposed rule, I think you'll find it a lot easier to understand than the prior version. But if there are things that could be done better, that could be made even more clear, let us know, because we have the public comment open until the end of February. Let's see. Eviction rules. This is something that may be a bit foreign to many of the people here, but it's not foreign to an awful lot of Texans. And there are these aspects of our law that really affect the people of our state. And so based upon a statute, SB 38, the court was directed to make significant amendments to the rules for evictions. And those were pretty substantial, pretty extensive. This is a situation that's a little different from what we normally do. Usually we'll propose rules, we'll have a lengthy comment period, we'll think about them, we'll adopt final rules. Here, the legislature required rules to be in place by January 1st. So what we've done is the rules that we have quote unquote proposed, they're in effect. Those are the rules, but the comment period is open and we can modify them if we need to, if there are things that come out. This is it's a surprisingly complex thing for something that we hope will be in the end very simple for landlords and for tenants. This is not the kind of thing that someone who's subject to this does not need extreme legal complexity where you have to go to law school to understand it. It should not be the goal, right? These are ordinary people just trying to make a living on both sides of this. And we should try to do this as well as we can in accordance with what the limits that the statute imposes are. Next, the central docket. We've proposed some rules there. The public comment is open until March 1st on these. And the rules that we have proposed, and you should take a look at those, have three basic principles. And that is, first, that all cases should be randomly assigned to a judge on the level of court, district courts of whatever county we're talking about. The case should go randomly on a wheel to each new judge. Secondly, responsibility for the case must be maintained by that identifiable judge, at all times known who it is. Of course, the case can be transferred to a different judge, and then that judge has the responsibility. But at all times, some judge is the one who's responsible for a case. That case will be on their statistics, the generation of data, and have, we hope, some degree of ownership, as well as the parties and their counsel knowing who it is, that if they need to get relief or to address the court, which judge it is that they're releasing. And third, to make clear that exchanges of benches remains, as is part of our law, available. That's an important thing because it's simply true that a judge might have a whole bunch of cases on the docket, and if multiple of them have emergencies at the same time, well, the judge can only be talking to one set of lawyers at a time. Judges are pretty good at juggling things. Judges can keep a lot of balls in the air, but if you're in the midst of a big trial, you can't also have a big hearing on a temporary injunction or something. And so our law allows for judges to say, hey, look, your trial just got postponed or they settled. Can you handle this for my people? And I'm still the responsible judge, but I'm going to exchange benches so that these people who have this urgent need can do it. But that's at the discretion of both parties, both judges, I should say, the judge who has responsibility for the case and the judge who would accept that as a matter of collegiality to help the system work right. So we expect that to take effect in the spring. We expect that the counties will be affected by it. We'll have some time to come into compliance with it, and we look forward to receiving public comments. And one last thing, this just took effect this week, and that is that we formalized the proposed rule we had to the rules governing admission to the bar. And that is to say that we're reverting back to where it was before the early 1980s, in which case the Supreme Court of Texas maintained a list of law schools whose graduates were eligible to sit for the bar of Texas. And in the early 1980s, that power was delegated to the American Bar Association, which has, as you know, a very detailed process for accreditation. And the court has decided that we will maintain the list of accredited ABA schools, that none of those schools are at any particular risk of being dropped off, that if any school is to drop off, it will be because of objective criteria. For example, a rapid decrease in students that pass the bar. And we are not adding any new schools to it at this time, but that remains something to consider in the future. And we're working with the Board of Law Examiners as to whether and when we should begin the process of considering new ways to facilitate admission to the bar. So for practical purposes, nothing really has changed. For legal purposes, though, this responsibility that the court has been charged with in the Constitution of Texas has now been reassumed by the court, but we're still very heavily reliant on the work that has been done by those who are accrediting law schools. And I am done, unless, of course, there are questions for me.
Do we have any questions or comments for Justice Young? Thank you so much, Justice Young. And we do appreciate your comments on the anniversary of the Texas Constitution. For those of us who regularly read the Texas Bar Journal, and hopefully that's everyone in the room, the February issue of the Bar Journal will contain several articles on the anniversary of the Texas Constitution, including one authored by Justice Young. So make sure to please read and share with all of your colleagues. Thank you so much again, Justice Young. Next up, we are going to have a report from our TYLA president, Allison Martinez. President Martinez, you have the floor.
Thank you, President Vargas, and Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
I'm here to report on the happenings of TYLA since we last met. Since we last met, we have conducted our quarterly meetings in Houston and in El Paso. In Houston, I was very happy to go back, which is where I attended law school. And we completed a public service project at the Thurgood Marshall School of Law, my alma mater, where we had over 75 attendees. It was a speed networking event based on practice areas. Our board was gracious enough to volunteer their time and experience with young and upcoming law students from Thurgood. So it was a wonderful experience, and I'm so very, very happy that we were able to do that. We also held a networking event with the Houston Lawyers Association, as well as continuing to contribute to our efforts to keep wellness, attorney wellness at the forefront by sponsoring a walk at the Houstonian. In El Paso, similar things, right? We did a public service project at Cathedral High School, similar format, but these were high school students now. So a lot less well-versed on practice areas and knowing exactly what kind of practice of law that they wanted to do. Some of them didn't even really want to be lawyers. Their teacher told them to be there, but we were still very grateful that they attended. And opened themselves up to the experience, and we hope that they still gathered a lot from it. And also networked with the El Paso Young Lawyers Association. It is a priority of mine at all of these meetings to do at least those three things, right? Networking with the Young Lawyer affiliate, doing a public service project where we give back to the pipeline to the profession, and continuing our efforts to put wellness at the forefront. And with that being said, Laredo is next week. That is our third quarterly board meeting for TYLA. And it is one of personal pride and privilege for myself, as it is my hometown. If any of you all are well versed with the Bachelorette series, you know that hometowns are a big deal. If you make it to hometowns, that means serious commitment, and that's what this is. So, we are hard at work preparing ourselves for next week, preparing our public service project to be done with a Kaizen Fellowship program, which is again, pipeline to profession program led by one of our federal judges. And it is also, to note, our nominations meeting. So we will not only be gathering the board of the Texas Young Lawyers Association, we're also gathering what we very endearingly call our fossils. So past presidents, past chairs will be reconvening in Laredo to decide the slate of candidates to come for our executive committee and of course our president-elect candidates. We will also be welcoming our two State Bar of Texas president-elect candidates to Laredo to give their first speech, I think, in as not formal candidates, because I know that that still has to get approved at the State Bar meeting, but it's their first appearance. And so they both confirmed and we're excited to see them. What else? Our progress on our big project, our Texas Bar Foundation granted project for the public, has taken off. We completed filming. We are so gracious to Executive Director Apfel and everyone else who contributed, because we took over the Texas Law Center for, I think, 3 days to complete filming for the project. But we've seen snippets of the videos and we're very, very excited for the progress on that project. And we can't wait to show you the final product. We're working with our vendor, which is Weekends Media, to finish producing the videos and to finish the website. So we're of course trying to meet our Texas Bar Foundation deadline. And I think we're well on track to do so. Other projects, our board has been quite busy. I've got emails even throughout the holidays of projects being done. And so I'm very, very proud and excited to share that we have made significant progress on everything that we set out to do this year. And hopefully at the next time that I present, I'll give you a better list of everything that we've accomplished. And what's to come, of course, our meeting in Laredo, we will also be selecting our president-elect candidates. And so we're very excited about that. And it feels every year that we do this, it's incredible that it's already been a year, because I feel like I just ran my campaign yesterday. But we're very, very excited to see who gets slated and to see them in action and representing TYLA across the state. We have a number of directors who are fabulous and who I know will make great candidates. I am not as busy as President Vargas is, but I'm still quite busy. So I have lined up visits with the South Texas College of Law and the Thurgood Marshall School of Law in February to visit their campuses and of course promote TYLA. This past Monday, I did a presentation with the South Texas College of Law, an intercession for solo practitioners to present what TYLA is and does and how it can better serve promising new young lawyers. And of course, we have Leadership SVOT that is convening in February at Galveston. So very excited to do that. And I am open to any questions, but if not, that is all I have to report on.
Any questions for TYLA President Martinez? Thank you so much. Okay, next we're going to have a report from our General Counsel, Ross Fisher.
I don't have any open session items.
Okay, no open session items. Okay, great. And with that, we're going to hear from our Chief Legal Counsel, Chris Ritter. Chris, you have the
I
floor.
also don't have an open session item, but I would ask that we now move into closed session.
Great. We'll do. Okay, everyone, the time is now 11:19 a.m. and the State Bar Board of Directors Executive Committee will now recess the open meeting and reconvene in closed session as authorized by Texas Government Code Section 551.071 for the purpose of consulting with legal counsel regarding Turnbull versus Commission for Lawyer Discipline et al., number 24-50260, and Robbins versus State Bar of Texas et al., 14-25-00921-CV and 14-25-00211-CV in the 14th Court of Appeals, and is authorized by the Texas Government Code 551.074 to deliberate regarding personnel matters. With the exception of board members, board liaisons, and section representatives, all other individuals, including non-essential staff and other guests, need to excuse themselves from the closed session. We will notify the public when we are 5 minutes out from returning to open sessions.
So it's not, I can participate.
For which there is no.
You're on.
Well, okay. The time is now 11:25 a.m. and the open session of the Board of Directors Executive Committee meeting will now reconvene. During the closed session, only matters relating to consultation with legal counsel regarding Turnbull versus Commission for Lawyer Discipline et al. And Robbins versus State Bar of Texas et al. Were discussed. No action was taken in closed session. And with that, that will conclude our executive committee meeting unless there are any questions or comments from any directors. Okay, seeing none, can I please have a motion to adjourn the executive committee meeting? Okay, Director Castle moved, second? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, with that, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you all very much.